Hi everyone. So welcome to our next session, parallel sessions. We've got Kat Halliday and Emma Hibbert, who are going to be talking about mapping the mind. Kat, I know your microphone is working. We're still just working on Emma's, but I'll let you get started and we'll try and resolve that as we go along, if that's okay.
Yeah, can you see my slides?
I can, yes.
I can't see my slides to move them along. If I do that, does that move the slide along?
Yes, it does.
Okay, awesome.
Would you
Brilliant.
like me to put the slides on and you can tell me when to move? Would that be easier?
Yeah, probably. That would be
Okay,
good. Let
one
me
second. Let me set that up.
unshare.
Um,
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Technology Fail number one. Hope you've all had a good day, or if this is your first calc session, thank you for joining.
okay, does this look familiar? Is this right?
It does, yes. Thank you
Great.
so
Okay,
much.
just tell me when to move on and we'll
Okay.
get started.
Um, Hello and welcome to our talk about sensory maps and critical librarianship um, through that lens. I was going to be presenting with two of my colleagues from the University of Loughborough today, but we are having some technical issues with one of our speakers. And also our other colleague had rather a large emergency. Um, with a British Standards Online. So for anyone who is a science librarian, they will kind of understand how tricky that is, and it's relating to an exam. So yeah, fun times. Next slide, please. And next slide. Um, Emma, who is on the call, was going to be presenting with me today, so I'm going to read her slide. So Emma has been at the university for just over a year, and she is our Student Experience and Accessibility Librarian, so SEAL for short. And she's been integral in this project, adding her expertise on user research and design, and then also her experience of accessibility as well. Next slide, thank you. This is me. My name is Kat. Oh, yeah, Catherine's just popped something in the chat. Um, I am an academic librarian by trade, and why am I part of this project? I am the EDI lead for the library at my institution. Um, and yeah, have a kind of wide interest in decolonising, equity, equality, and also the co-chair of the university's Women's Network. Next slide. Catherine is also another academic librarian. She supports all of our science and engineering students brilliantly. She's got a wealth of experience in kind of information literacy teaching and research. Also really, really knowledgeable about study skills and providing support in kind of a range of library and then study skills related fields as well. We're all horror nerds as well, and we've all bonded at work over our love of horror movies as well. So not relevant to this, but kind of gives you a flavour of the kind of people that we are. So next slide, please. A little bit about us. So we are from Loughborough University. For those of you, I don't know where you're all based, whether you're UK based or international. This is in the East Midlands, and we have a building, one single building on campus, which can hold about 1,400 students. We're the only library on our East Midlands campus, and we are a really peculiarly shaped building. It's like the Louvre, it's like an inverted triangle, and you come in on level 3, and there are 2 floors below us which contain our book stock. And then we have kind of additional floors which have study spaces and kind of silent study things everywhere, like collaboration areas or silent study or like traditional study carrels. So there's a whole mixture of things that are available, but it's not immediately obvious as you enter the building what kind of services that we have and or where. Okay, next slide. So we're going to be looking at it through kind of critical librarianship lens and an accessibility lens. Next slide, please. So our project was about creating a sensory map and a visual story for our library. A sensory map helps everybody navigate a particular space. So it's a very visual representation of a particular space. So we have done a map for all of our floors, and it supports users who have sensory sensitivities, anyone who maybe has anxiety, haven't used the library before, to kind of navigate the library and find the space where they can work best. I should also say as well that our library is part of the Leicestershire and Loughborough area partnership that works with our local public library as well. So whilst we have students and our staff, we also have the element of dealing with the general public as well. So this was kind of like a dual-pronged approach to think about how we could best serve all of our users as well. So I'm going to read, these are not my slides this bit because we were going to split this presentation. So excuse me for reading off a bit of paper, but I'm kind of having to wing it. So a sensory map outlines what sensory experiences a visitor can expect in the library. So things such as bright or low light, noisy or quiet areas, very strong smells, temperature changes, or crowded spaces. The point of it is that it helps people plan their visit in a way that makes them feel most comfortable. Sensory maps are specifically helpful for autistic and neurodivergent visitors, as well as people. Hello?
You can hear me.
Oh my God, thank God. This is my
I'm
other
so sorry,
co-presenter.
everyone. I'm so
Ah.
sorry. That was very, very tricky. I had clicked some buttons that I shouldn't have clicked, and it all just went haywire. Thank you for covering, Kat.
Do you want me to finish the slide or?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's fine. So sensory maps are specifically helpful for autistic and neurodivergent visitors, as well as lots of people with different sensory sensitivities. So it might be someone like myself who has hearing impairments, sight loss, anxiety, or other conditions. I don't have all of those conditions, although maybe after this presentation, I might. However, anyone can use a sensory map. For example, someone wishing to avoid busy areas, someone who prefers maybe hands-on or tactile sources. By clearly showing on the sensory map hotspots and calmer areas, the map supports a more inclusive access and helps visitors navigate the library with confidence. And I'll let Emma take over.
Thank you, Kat. So next slide, please. So to give some Loughborough context, these are some figures that we got from our Student Wellbeing and Inclusivity Service. They provided us details of students that were attending the university who have had their additional needs assessed. And what that means is students that have gone through the Disabled Students Allowance and declared that they have an additional need that needs supporting. So as you can see, there's kind of a vast range of disclosures that could have underlying kind of sensory needs or extra support or being aware of their environment. And the sensory map was really valuable for everyone, not just people with sensitivities, as it can help people find spaces quicker. It can help them find a nice calm space or a busier space and kind of work towards their needs. So we kind of had a look to see overall what students were declaring, and that's not including the students that choose not to declare. So it definitely seems like a resource that would be really useful for our users. Next slide.
Right, it's me again. I was like, oh no, I shouldn't be speaking yet, but I am going to do more slides. I have the great privilege of explaining a little bit about critical information literacy. So what is it? Obviously, this is a really important topic when it comes to this conference. And I don't want to kind of like tell people what they already know, but for those who don't know, I've done like a little introductory slide. Why is it important of the context of the sensory map? Because I think oftentimes as librarians, we think we possibly know best, or we work in institutions that have processes and they don't always take into account other thoughts, voices, and lived experiences. So for us, it was really important to kind of add the critical lens to make sure that we were being as equitable as we could be when we were making this particular resource. So critical information literacy combines our normal information literacy, and I'm basing it on kind of the British information literacy, SCONAL kind of 7 pillars here. Also critical pedagogy, especially the work of Freire. Critical theory, its goal is basically to help learners understand information systems, so libraries, databases, algorithms, publishing, academia, as social and political structures. They are not neutral tools. So in short, it asks not only how do I find and evaluate information, but who produces the information, under what conditions was the information produced, and in whose interest. So it kind of takes all of the regular information literacy skills that we look at and hopefully undertake ourselves, and adds that extra layer inside it. Next slide, please. So how does it differ from traditional information literacy? Well, my bread and butter, let's be honest, because I'm an academic librarian, is skills-based. It focuses on a correct way of doing things. So we go to the library catalogue, and then we go to the databases page, or we go to the subject guide pages, and then we look for our subject area. And it's very kind of process-driven. It's not particularly organic. I will say we're quite sticklers for order, aren't we? You know, with whichever classification system that we're using, we have that kind of checklist mentality of these are the steps that you need to do if you're performing a correct search. We often present the library as a neutral space, and we are complicit with academic norms for good or for bad. Critical information literacy is more theory informed. It focuses on power and power dynamics, and emphasizes context and authority, and you know, it does place the library in or as a political being. And we kind of question the academic norms which appear in all of our jobs and presented through academics or staff and to our students as well. Next slide, please. So it also rejects the ideas that libraries, search engines, classification systems, and peer review are not neutral or objective. And instead, it recognises that we have classification systems which are based on cultural and colonial biases. Academic publishing reinforces privilege and exclusion of particular groups and voices, and algorithms within databases or AI or search engines prioritise some voices over others. So mapping the sensory experience reveals for us whose comfort has historically been prioritised and who has not. So how did we design the building? You know, our library was probably built late 60s, early 1970s. At the time, I don't think anyone considered the navigation of the library from a neurodiverse person's perspective, or as we build our spaces and redesign our spaces, you know, we're thinking differently about how the space is used and about how lighting impacts on students' ability to perform, or providing a variety of different study spaces to cater for everyone's needs, or looking at things like the furniture, the texture of the furniture, all of these kind of really, really important things. Critical information literacy rejects neutrality as a myth. Sensory maps do this by showing that the silence, visibility, security, and space allocation are political choices, which feels normal to me or to one person might feel oppressive to others. Next slide, please. In addition, we have kind of thinking about students as knowledge producers. We collaborated a lot with a lot of user experience surveys within this, and we found it was the students came up with really interesting ideas that we, as quite a diverse group of people who kind of spearheaded this project, didn't even think of, I'll be honest. So this at the core, critical information literacy, authority is constructed and contextual and not solely held by institution or professional. So including the student voice and a range of student voices was really, really important to the project and its success. Next slide, please. you might need to click on because I think these are little, oh, okay, there are some icons here, but they're not appearing to show, which is fine. It doesn't like some of my icons. So where it says sensory mapping, there was a little eye icon. So we had a little icon of a video camera for the behavioural norms. There was a little scroll for the labour required to fit academic expectations. I don't know why it's doing that. Don't worry. I think we've all decided that it's an absolute nightmare today for technology. It's fine. Basically, critical information literacy tries to demystify a lot of this and help learners see how systems function beneath the surface. So for us, being honest about what was inside our library and the different areas also kind of lean towards that kind of critical information literacy lens by saying, actually, this bit is a lot noisier than somewhere else, or this, area is very dark, or, it has a smell. Emma will come on to this in a minute. Next slide, please. Oh, I think maybe we're around 15. There we go. Yeah. Yeah, that'll do. Anyway, we've done that slide. Next one for me. Thank you. Brilliant. Okay, so students don't just learn how to use the library, they learn to question it. So in short, the sensory map supports students by making visible barriers visible, we hope, validates embodied emotional and marginalized experiences, increases agency, accessibility, and equity, and it uses critical information literacy by rejecting neutrality, redistributing authority, exposing power structures, and positioning students as co-creators of the library. So I've waffled on for far too long, so we're going to have a little exercise. Let me try and drop our... Oh, someone's already done it, Catherine. Amazing. Catherine is here in the virtual form. Yay! Did you want to talk through this one, Catherine, or do you want me to do it?
Yeah, okay, I shall go through it. So we're going to do a little activity for about 5 minutes. And we're going to give you a chance. I mean, it's a conference, it's a library conference, so there's got to be a Padlet involved. It's just one of those things that's in library conference bingo that you have to have a Padlet. So we've created a short one here. Yay! And if I can get you in the next 5 minutes to have a look at the first 3 questions on the Padlet. So we are assuming that you have come to listen to us and come to see us because you are thinking about or you're interested in sensory maps. So if in the first 3 questions we have, number 1, what would a sensory map bring to your library community? So what would be the advantages of creating a sensory map within your library community? First one. Second one, what would be the potential challenges of creating a sensory map within your library area? And also, have you seen any good examples? Have you come to this session because you've been inspired by somebody else's example? Or are you creating one already? You've created one already and it's out there in the wild. So if I can give you 5 minutes you don't have to put something in everything, but if you can put some thoughts in there, that would be great. If you've got any questions, if you put them in the chat as well, if it doesn't quite make sense or you'd just like to make a comment that is not based on that, we can do that in the chat. Thank you. It's now on the main slide so we can see them coming through. So we'll give that until 9 minutes past 4. And then I will talk through a few of the responses as they come through, and then we'll have a bit more information after that.
When we were doing the project, we looked like at a variety of sensory maps and visual stories which are out there. I've put one of each on the Padlet already as just an example, but Alton Towers has some really good ones. If for those who don't know what Alton Towers is, it's a theme park, and they have a really, really good like accessible and sensory material. So we didn't just look within kind of the glam museum libraries world. We looked broader. We looked at some I think like National Trust properties as well, Emma, or like a national park, something like that. So we really kind of took a really huge variety of different sectors when we were looking at what kind of layout or we would prefer. I think we did look at that Welcome Collection one as well, whoever added it. So thank you for that.
Okay, we've got a couple more minutes on that. Some really lovely suggestions coming in there. The Worcester one we used as one of the inspiration kind of examples as well. So I'm glad somebody's put that in. That's a really nice one. Okay. So one more minute and then we'll rejoin. If you do hear some strange noises in the background, I have two unruly lurcher dogs that keep coming into the room. Something about dogs that if you close a door to them, they want to come through it. So if you do hear lots of tapping around, it's them tapping around on the floor next to me. It's not a problem with your sound. Okay. Brilliant. If you do want to continue putting things in there, that will be great. We're going to leave the Padlet open so that you can access it after the conference, and you can still contribute to it as well. So if you want to share it with colleagues after the fact, that's great, and we can put other things in there as well. So if there's some ideas that might be in there too. Okay. So it looks like the consensus is that the advantages would be the main two advantages: working with students and increasing inclusivity within the library spaces, which were exactly the reasons that we wanted to do one of these projects, and kind of get it going. And barriers, yes, we came across some of these barriers. There's no money to change radically. However, this was one of the, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Emma, one of the things that was feedback from some of the managements were that if students don't like the place, they're going to suggest changes, and we don't have time or resource to actually make those changes. So, but at the moment, I don't think we've had any feedback about changing. We have feedback about changing anyway, but not directly related to the actual sensory map itself. Yep, keeping it up to date, sharing them, and we have had issues with sharing them as well, but we have found that people are using it at the moment. So yeah, awesome. That's some really nice things in there and some lovely examples. So the Welcome Collection is one that we looked at. But yeah, the Alton Towers one is a really good example. I am the mother of 2 raging ADHD children, and they have got it from somewhere. So having those kind of visual stories, the app as well for Alton Towers is really, really good. So those kind of more commercial examples as well might be a little bit out of reach in terms of software updating and price and things like that. But that might be one of the ways that we would like to go in the future with it. So thank you so much for your contributions. We will come back to this in a little while, but I will hand back over. I think it's to you, isn't it, Kat?
No, Sam.
Me, yeah.
Could we have the slides back up, please, Darren? Oh, next one. Oh, we've done that bit.
Yep. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit now about our process for creating the sensory map. If we move to the next slide, please. So this is kind of an overview, which I'll go into more detail about now. So we started off with the research, which Kat and Catherine have touched upon. We then created a prototype based off this, and then moved on to some user testing with students and did different types of user testing. Then did a second prototype, and then got some more feedback on that, and was able to kind of refine it to the best we could through all the feedback that we were given. And then I'll talk about the launch and the impact. So next slide, please. So the research project, as Kat said, we looked at lots of other diverse areas. I met with the NTU librarians, Nottingham Trent University, and this is an example of their sensory map that they used. And they give really good insight of kind of things they noted, things that students noted to them, how they went about the design. So that was really helpful and useful. And then we looked at other different places, like, as you say, the museums, different parks, and just kind of tried to see what themes were showing up, what was the most popular sensory needs that were mentioned, how they went about explaining that, their use of colour, that type of thing. So we kind of worked with it that way. We then met with the student services here at Loughborough University because they specialise in kind of students with additional needs and kind of talking through sensory environments, and just kind of asked them to have a walk around the library and see if they spotted anything, if there's anything that we might particularly need to mention or could be quite tricky for a student, anything we need to highlight. And they were really helpful with that too and really engaging throughout the process. Next slide. So then after we did that, we did our first prototype. We created 3 versions of the same map. So one in black and white, one in full colour, one in part colour, part black and white. And we also created a visual story as well, which does what it says on the label. It is a story taking you through the library using visuals. And we did a snapshot user testing. So we left, like this picture here, stands out for students to complete a form saying which one they liked best, what they related to, and how it was helpful. And this was able for us to get a kind of much larger picture from students around the campus to see what they liked the most. So we did it deliberately not in the library because we wanted to kind of reach out to lots of other students as well. So we had these posted up everywhere and we got a good review back with it. We also did some staff surveys as well. So students and staff could kind of look at it and give feedback too. And then we moved on to focus groups. So that was for more detailed, in-depth looking at the maps, getting their advice. So we kind of had a surface image of what was the most popular, and then kind of more detailed around how they felt about it, how they understood it, how were they reading it. And that was, we had 3 focus groups with 4 to 6 students in each group. Next slide, please. So this is some of the user feedback that Kat alluded to that was really helpful for us, that we just hadn't thought about. So we knew that temperature had been used in other sensory maps from different places, but we just couldn't figure out how to do it for our library because some students say they're freezing, some students say they're warm. It's very interpretive. We were like, how are we going to do it? And one student was like, just say where the ACs are. And I was like, that's genius. So it was really helpful to have their feedback with that. The nose icon. So we had the nose icon in the cafe because obviously there's smells of different types of foods and coffees and all that type of stuff. But then we also put it in our stairwells because they are pure concrete and they do have a certain smell that one of our staff members noticed and said, you know, oh, it's different. Waving cat. Didn't want to dob her out straight away. But funnily enough, when students saw it not in a food environment, they assumed it was negative. They were like, oh, are the stairwells bad? Are they a bad smell? And it's just like, well, no, it's more just noting that there's a change in smell or a strong smell. It could be good for some people. It could be bad for people. But it was just kind of interesting to see the different connotations depending on what environment you put it in. And then the noise level, we kind of did a little speakerphone initially that had 3 bars. And so like 1 bar was quiet, 2 bar was medium noise, 3 was really loud. And that really confused students. They were just like, I don't think there's enough context around that. And what do you mean by quiet? What do you mean by... So that got us really thinking about, oh, that's our assumption of what we've understood. We need to maybe display that a bit better. And then for our library, you enter in on level 3, and then you've got levels 1 and 2 below and level 4 above. And the map wasn't really clear of which one you entered, and a student pointed out that was quite confusing for me in the beginning. And I think if I had this map and it had really detailed, you know, you come in on this level, that might really help them understand. So we made sure to put that in. And then we also got some really good feedback about the colours we were using. So one staff member pointed out, oh, you've made the toilet icons red, and that kind of sparked danger for me. And it's just like, oh, okay, we need to think about the purpose of the colour, what we're using to kind of help with that. And then with the visual story and with the sensory map, a lot of the students in the focus group said they'd really would have liked to have had this when they first started as like part of an induction pack of the library, and just be aware of kind of all the different spaces and how it works and what kind of zones are there. So that was really helpful for us to start thinking about how we're going to launch it and when we should maybe advertise it the most, so possibly at the start of the course. Next slide. So this is just a snapshot from the quick surveys, so the ones we did around campus. Full colour was the most popular, with part colour coming close. And this kind of helped us informed how we design next and the different feedback and how we have to do it. And also in terms of the tools we used, the first tool was kind of, I'd say, very basic. It was, you know, just doing what I could with those kind of things. But after talking to Nottingham-Trent University and other universities as well, they were really helpful with kind of suggesting different tools to kind of do design. So we had a bit more resources that we could pull for the second prototype with the student feedback and the feedback from other services and staff. Next slide. So this will give you a visual. So this is the first one that we did on the left. Very basic, just kind of we did that in 3 different types to just give students that idea. And as you can see, the nose icons were in the stairs with that, and we had everything kind of displayed this way. And then once we moved on to the one on the right, that was our second prototype. So we made it more diverse with the icons, tried to stay away from red, and also shading. So the green shading means that it's a loud zone, so where there'll be a lot of talking, group work and things like that. So that's our level 3. And it's just a very clear visual of, okay, noise level, this is how it's going to look. And it does come with a little key on the side that explains that quite clearly. Next slide. So for the launch and impact research, so for the launch side of things, we put it on our repository, which I think you'll get links to in the chat and with the slides. It was easy access, able for people to get to it through there. We're working on getting it uploaded on our web pages. We're just negotiating with our website team, making sure that it's the most accessible it can be. And then promotions, we've been working with halls, open days and inductions, just because of a lot of the comments students said was this would have been great in the beginning as like a entry resource. Support services have taken quite a few as well, because I think that'd be really helpful just to kind of gently ease students that might be anxious about going into the library, just gives them a bit more of a picture of what it's about. Also working with academic staff and staff groups to kind of help with that too. And then now we're moving on to kind of measuring the impact of it. So it's still very in the early stages of launch, but we're hoping to monitor the engagement with the repository, how many students have used it through student support services, and working on the handouts and kind of verbal feedback with it as well. Next slide, please. Okay, over to Catherine.
Hello. Okay, so we're going to take another few minutes to look at question 4 and 5 now. So back to the Padlet, and this time, and I know some people have already put it in here, but it's fine. We're not going to exclude people for putting things in a different box. But if you have created your own sensory map, if you can pop a link in number 4, that would be great. But also, what were the things that you deliberately wanted to include and those that you wanted to exclude as well? So what was the decision-making process in terms of what to include and what not to include? And that could be different based on which library it is, which subject area it covers. If you have many libraries, we at Loughborough only have one library, so it's there to suit everybody. Does that make sense? And also, is there anything on our sensory map that we have missed, or anything that we've not thought of so far? I will put a link in. Has anybody put a link into the actual sensory map? Yay, thank you, Kat. So you can take a look at the actual sensory map that we've created. It is a PDF and it's housed in our repository, our open access repository. So students can print it out if they want it. We'd also print out as well if somebody wanted a copy to look at. So take a couple of minutes to have a look at the map that we've created. Any feedback, any thoughts also can go in the comments or on the Padlet. It doesn't matter where really, as long as they're on there. But is there anything that you would have included that you think might be useful? So give us your perspective on the things that you would have included. And also, if you've already created one, what was your thought process in including, excluding different areas? So we'll give that, shall we say, let's not round it up to 5 minutes. Let's do 4.5 minutes. There we go. Just to be a bit more kind of controversial. Make it a bit more exciting. So if we take that to 28 minutes past 4, we can do that. But again, continue to pop questions in the chat. And yeah, Angus, it's not cheeky to ask questions. Please just ask questions. Not cheeky at all. And we do appreciate that you probably do need to be in other places as well. So if there are questions, please do pop them in the chat. And if I don't answer them immediately, the recording will be available as well. So you can see the answers to those questions if you have got to duck out at any point. Okay.
We are going to do a little Q&A as well after this bit, so we'll try and answer the questions as well from the chat, if time allows.
Emma, you put the you did the majority of the work of putting the map together. What software did you use in the end? Was it
It was a medley of all things, because we didn't have a budget for this, so it was getting creative with what we could do. So for the original template, we have our health and safety manager here at the library that had the blueprints and the layout of the library. So that was kind of the initial easy kind of visual of a map that we could use. It was then putting it into Canva and removing all the bits that we don't need and kind of doing it all that way, and then using it for basic symbols. And then for the shading tool, that was through PowerPoint. So there is a way that you can kind of add different shadings and shapes to mold it to kind of awkward spaces, which was quite helpful. So it was a combination of the three, and a slightly longer process, but it kind of worked for us in that way.
Brilliant, thank you, Emma. And yeah, I'm gonna kudos to Emma, because none of us have got any formal kind of design experience. We did it with zero budget. There was some budget for the focus groups for the students to pay them for their time, but other than that, it was very kind of Blue Peter kind of put together with, and if you don't know what Blue Peter is, Google it. It's an amazing children's TV program that you must know about, you need to know about. But it was very much kind of holding things together with bits of sticky tape and what have you. But I think the result is pretty darn amazing for the resources that we had available to us. And the feedback from students that have looked at it has been really, really good. So yeah. And sometimes with these things, simple is sometimes the best solution anyway. So it would be nice to have all bells and whistles and make it like that. But sometimes just a simple PDF or a printout is what students actually want. That said, if they did give us money for the software, we would take it as well.
I think part of it was proving the need for it. We've kind of taken it to our EDI board of the university, and we have like EDI clusters across the university. And everyone that we've shown it to can kind of see the need for it, not just necessarily in the library, but in other buildings for students across campus. So we've kind of been like the test pilots and the guinea pigs to show kind of what the type of document resource that would be useful, but how that could then spread across the rest of the campus. So we are hoping that if and when it does kind of bubble through into other departments, that there might be some budget kind of allocated for that kind of thing. But yeah, it was very as it is in every library at the moment, do more with less.
I've just actually thought of another question that's kind of sprung to mind, and I will put a space on the Padlet for this, is where to actually put it once it's actually created. So for those that have already created their sensory map or similar, where have you put it? So we have a Loughborough app, and the majority of students said that that would be where they would look for it. Has anybody got any suggestions on good places to actually put these so that they are used? Has anybody got them on their library web pages? All of those sorts of things. So I will add an extra section to the Padlet so that can go in there, if you bear with me.
Just having a look through at some of the questions, and somebody posed one earlier, Emma, which I think you might need to answer, which is about Access Able. Can you see that comment?
Oh yeah. Is it used in complement with Access Able building guides, or do you stick to this one as your primary tool? Yeah, I'd say it would complement it. So it is still something that a lot of our users tend to go to Access Able in the first instance, but then this is more a specific kind of sensory focused tool to complement both, really. So we're just trying to create a broad range of information in different formats and different visuals as well.
Somebody's asked as well, do we have the maps posted physically in the building? Not currently, but we are undergoing quite a large collection move at the moment and over the next couple of months. So we haven't done that as yet, but it is on our list.
It's yeah, I think student services took most of the physical copies because they do a lot of, they've got the links to the repository and stuff if students prefer digital, but in the focus groups a lot of students said they would have liked to have seen this physically in their halls, like when they just get in so they can see it and then they'd know, oh, okay, I can navigate the library this way. So at the moment, student services have a lot of copies available, and we will produce them for open days as well, just to keep that kind of availability. But obviously, giving the choice of electronic as well. In an ideal world, I'd love an interactive map as well and all the different embedded things to make it fully accessible, but you work with the tools you have at the moment.
Okay, we've run over time for the activity, so I think, is it Q&A next? Are we? Yeah. So we will open it to.
Oh, it might be another slide from me.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there we go. Oh, sorry. Go on.
Sorry, I was just scrolling the chat. Yes, so in terms of what we included, that's kind of a list there of the icons. So I think it's important to kind of put the noise levels and areas in a library as well to help navigate different zones, whether you've got silent study areas or quiet zones, and kind of putting those in. The lighting one was really, students really complimented on. So the sunlight for natural light, and then the artificial light bulb. They just really like to have that different choice, especially if they're doing kind of longer studies or have a preference to that. Crowded areas were really important. And then we went with the aircon unit as well, as you can see on there. The friendly staff member was actually from a different library that used it that I saw later on, and I was like, oh, that's quite handy, because sometimes we've had other kind of user service testing where students are like, oh, I don't want to bother the staff. I don't want to, annoy them. So I was like, okay, well, if we make it known that on the reception desk they're there to help and they would love you to come up. So we just kind of had that in to be more approachable and kind of have that kind of permission almost that you can totally come to us with anything you might need. Where the strong smells might be, we did decide to not put them in the corridors at the end of it because it was a bit too complicated to explain and just kind of put students off going down the corridors, which was unfortunate. Might be something we introduce later on. It is an ever-changing document, and we will still keep wanting to get feedback and kind of change it as the library changes too. And also kind of where accessibility help can be found. If you have any kind of units or services or any particular, I know some universities have accessibility librarians, if there's anywhere that you might want to let students know about those services or different things. We did kind of play with that idea of putting in the resources. I know there was mention in the chat, like mentioning collections or mentioning where certain staff are based, not individual names, but like the team. It did just look a bit too busy when we tried to incorporate all that in, and it was kind of slipping away from being a sensory map to more of a map. But I've seen other people be able to do it with kind of layered technology, and students can filter. So if those are the kind of instruments and tools that you've got at your disposal, then I think those things would be really helpful. And clear graphics as well. We just made sure to try and make them as simplistic and understandable as possible, and make sure the students understood each one. So the noise level one, working on the shading and putting a really clear, detailed example. You'll be able to see when you click on the repository of what we mean by a loud, noisy area, what do we mean by silent study, and things like that. So it was make that really clear. Okay, next slide, please. And this is just a bit, I know we've touched mostly upon sensory maps, but what we should include in a visual story. You'll be able to see that on the repository as well. In terms of, I think it's connected to the maps. This is very much still a prototype, so we're still working on kind of redesigning this. But it's just kind of some information around how you navigate those as well. And some of the resources from the National Trust and the ones that are linked in the Padlet, they have visual stories as well and different things that you can go through. So that was more accessible information and kind of really detailed of where the seats are, what they look like, and those kind of facilities, whereas the map kind of gives a kind of more overview of everything and a layout of the kind of environment and space, whereas this is more detailed. Next slide, please. Okay, Q&A.
Excellent. Thanks so much, all three. I think, Catherine, you were looking out in the chat for any questions that came up. So if people want to keep those coming, but if anyone wants to raise a hand, I can unmute you if you want to ask a question verbally.
Don't be shy, there's never a silly question. This is your opportunity to grill us. Or anyone who's done one who'd like to offer us some more advice.
Happy to learn.
I don't know if we've missed anything in the chat.
Yeah, I'm just having a look now.
I think we've answered all of them.
Oh yeah, the comment about the noise alerts, that came from a student, that came from a staff member actually, because they were like, our building has a fire alarm test and I have to be out. I have to go get a coffee at that time because it's very stressful for me. And I was like, oh yes, if the students, pulled along all-nighter and all of a sudden the fire alarm goes off, it's just kind of reminding them of a regular noise that's going to occur. So yeah, that was quite handy and helpful to know.
I had one question that I was going to ask. So obviously, when you're designing a sensory map and you're making choices about saying which areas of the library might be more noisy or more busy, how do you determine? So obviously, the library might be a lot busier and a lot more noisy at one time than others. Are you taking it almost at its busiest or its quietest, or how do you baseline that almost, I guess?
Yeah, I think for that one, we did it as kind of if it would be the busiest. So I think the furniture that you have, we've done a lot of kind of reviews on how furniture kind of influences student behavior. So I think in level 3, it's a lot of group study desks, like big desks with lots of seats, lots of interaction. So even if there's kind of less students, that would still be people talking at a loud level because students feel they've got that permission to do that. Whereas in the lower levels, it's individual study desks. It's a lot more quieter. Students kind of self-police themselves. So I think regardless of the people, it's to make them mindful of that person's going to be talking at this level and not whispering. And it's going to kind of, it's going to be have that distraction there. And then for the quieter study, might say minimal chatter at a low, kind of like a whisper. There might be, and that's just from going around observations and how students behave with that. And then silent study, just kind of students said it would be helpful to know if they could eat or drink. So we're just really clear with that and just say absolutely no talking. So I suppose it's kind of an overlay of all the time, but obviously it's going to be super noisy if we're 24/7 and really busy. So just making that clear of what to expect.
Lovely, thank you.
There's one that's just come in about how did we recruit or did we have any trouble recruiting a kind of representative range of students for the focus group? You might want to talk about how we did that, with whom.
Yeah, so we worked with student support services as well to look at students that have additional needs and kind of did an assessment if it was appropriate to offer as a choice if they wanted to come. And as Kat said, we made sure that they were paid and reimbursed for what they're doing because that's 100% fair and should be done. So we kind of sent an invite out to them, and we also, the academic librarian, sent it out to the schools and given them an opportunity to be involved. We offered in person and online, and we kind of gave a detailed explanation of what would be expected of them, what they're going to look at, and we just got students in through that way. We do have the student panel, which is a pool of students that offer their services to kind of talk through focus groups or ask questions, and then they get paid a salary for that. The only issue with that is it's the same students each time, whereas we wanted to give everyone an opportunity. It's the same reason why we took the stands with sweets, because sweets are great motivators, and tried to speak to students in different buildings and just kind of get an idea of, some of them turned around and went, oh, I've not been in the library yet. And I'm like, okay, could you say why? What's the case with that? And just kind of get an understanding to try and reach a broad range of students. So yeah, it was a mixture of kind of opening up to as many as possible and also doing the kind of short snapshot so we could get more quantity of kind of an overall answer to the layout and the colours.
Brilliant. Someone's also put in about textures and patterns. Like a jarring. Would it be too detailed? Hang on, sorry. Would it be too detailed to consider adding that? I kind of put that we had like a selection of the furniture on the visual story because we didn't feel that that could go inside the map. We didn't, because obviously we haven't got the most sophisticated software, but it was something that we thought about. But again, yeah, it would, in an ideal world, it would be lovely to have that. If we had some software, like Emma said, about, different layers and students being able to choose their own kind of layers and areas of interest. But currently we haven't got anything that's that sophisticated.
Yeah, it is a bit of a tricky one with that. I'd say it probably lands maybe more with a visual story, and it has a lot more detail because then you can provide the visuals rather than an icon. So the individual user can make an assessment whether that's jarring for them or whether it's something that might be tricky for them in terms of texture.
Oh, that's super interesting.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
making
that's
sure.
really, yeah, thank you, Emma. I think that's, yeah.
I think we've answered everybody.
Yeah, yeah. I love that idea. We need a knitting workshop as well, guys. So just throwing that in there.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we've run out of time now.
I think we've got a couple of minutes, but
We've got
equally,
yeah, we have got a few minutes left. But if
Okay.
there's any other questions, or if Emma wants to talk to us about knitting workshops, because that does sound interesting.
Yeah, it does. It does sound great. Any excuse to knit? Oh, absolutely. It's the future.
when the apocalypse comes, we'll have to
Absolutely,
knit our
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming to the talk. We really appreciate it. And if anyone would like to contact us afterwards, as someone's asked in the chat, the PowerPoint slides will be circulated afterwards and it's got our contact details. So please, if you want any advice or commiserations on doing your own, we'd love to hear from you, and especially from an alumni of Sheffield as well. Always happy to help anyone doing their dissertation.
Emma's just said, if you like, talk to us about the knitting workshops. We have got a couple of minutes. I've allowed you to unmute yourself if you want to, Emma, and tell us about
that. Hi, everybody. I didn't expect to be talking knitting today.
I knew it would come up at some point during this conference. Go ahead.
we just tried it as an activity during a open day for students that are autistic and are joining us in September. So we just did it in a low light classroom, lots of different textures of wool, even different textures of knitting needles and stitch holders, so the students could take away whatever they created, and we gave them a pattern as well, quite straightforward pattern, and that was it really. So I'm quite interested in textures. Yeah.
Are you an arts university, Emma, or an arts-based institution, or are you just in everything?
No, I just try and bring knitting into most of my life because I find it quite calming. So I've been bringing it into various different activities and using it more with students. No, I'm at Sheffield Hallam. We're not art. Well, we do have arts, but yeah, this is just to get crafting in the classroom, really.
Well, we are Loughborough, and everyone always knows us for sport, but we also have like an award-winning creative arts section as well. So we're always looking for opportunities to collaborate with our artistic colleagues. So I might float that one.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No, it's not float. That's a definite land.
Okay.
That is.
If you wanted to chat about it, you can just let me know.
Amazing.
Always chat crafting.
Brilliant.
We could have a Teams collab as well, maybe.
Lovely. Yeah, I mean, I teach future librarians, and the number of times I'm teaching the class and everybody's sat there knitting on the front row is wonderful. Right, we are just coming up at 1:45, so please, everyone, do express your thanks for the team from Loughborough. And yeah, sterling work getting through those first few minutes with some technical problems, but we landed it, and amazing. Thank you so much. Again, we are going to take a break. As I always say, touch some grass, look at a tree, knit a few rows, whatever you need to do to relax and not look at a screen for a few minutes. And we'll be back for the final parallel sessions at 5 o'clock. Thank you very much, everybody. Take
Thanks,
care.
everyone. Bye.